You want me to tell you a story? What for? What do I get out of it? I haven't told a story in a very long time. I wouldn't even know how to begin. If you really want me to. We can't just sit here in silence for an hour. I used to tell my daughters stories. I could never remember what happened, so I would just make them up. I was pretty good at it once. But I've never had to tell a story about myself. How do I start? There is this thinly defined veil between the living and the dead. We have been told it is two worlds, that we pass through a threshold into oblivion or something. Sound familiar? But that is only what we have been told. You dig deep enough into the past, and you start to learn that just because some mindset is contemporarily in fashion does not make it true. Before us, before now, before the world lost its spirit, that threshold was non-existent. In a different culture, in a different time, the boundaries that seem so stable now were so thin that you could reach your hand through time and space and hear the voices of the people who came before. But those voices were too loud, and those voices grew and grew until we had to shut them up. The boundaries between life and death are new, comparatively speaking, when one thinks about the centuries of the spiritual and the mortal coexisting, harmoniously so. You are not surprised by this. I'm a little rusty. When did the story begin? I sat there in the doctor's office, waiting to hear the news. And I remember it, two paths stretched out in front of me. The first path where this is just an annoyance. The doctor is taking her time and I just want to go back home. Oh, it started when I couldn't move my right hand. It was just the pain everybody gets, nothing unusual in having an odd pain. And you look it up on the internet and you see what your symptoms are, but there's nothing within the realm of comprehension. And that's off-putting. I should be able to move my hand. And it's weird that I can't find anything other than the really, really scary stuff. Maybe the run I took was too hard. Maybe I picked up something heavy and didn't realize that I sprained it. Just part of getting older. There's no way to stop getting older. It's fine. And that random back pain goes away, and the headache because I didn't drink enough water, and the Charlie horse that wakes me up in the middle of the night. It's always nothing. But then back in the doctor's office, what were those tests called? Forget it. It is always going to be the first path. It couldn't possibly be the second path where there is actually something wrong. It can't be. I think about this moment a lot now. I never told anybody else. It's a secret as I go through my day. I have so little that I can keep to myself, that can be mine. This is how the story starts. I remember sitting in the doctor's office, convinced that it would be the first path because I wasn't, and maybe you aren't either, ready for the second. Why do we tell stories? To learn something? To understand the past? To reflect? To go on adventures that we would never take in real life, to escape, to entertain each other, to pass the time, to connect with people when you feel isolated, to realize that your world is much bigger than you, to put your children to sleep, to say goodbye.
Hannah and Greta's parents left without saying goodbye. They left a note saying there was food in the fridge and that they expected the girls to occupy themselves for the day. This was a common occurrence, so it didn't upset them, but they were still frustrated to have no plans for the day. Hannah stared out the window. Greta went to her closet to get the chemistry set her father had given her. She took out the instructions and started to read.
They're gone.
They're always gone.
But they always come back.
Remember the first time they left us alone?
No, it happens more and more frequently.
Stop bugging me.
What are you doing?
I'm trying to figure out what to do.
You're not going to set the house on fire again.
I doubt it. That first time was a fluke.
You're not bored?
I mean, I am. You're boring.
I'm boring?
I'm boring too. I'm just trying to keep busy.
You should read the instructions.
Life doesn't come with instructions.
Can we go somewhere?
Where do you want to go?
No, not like, can we go somewhere as in asking. I mean, are we allowed to go somewhere?
They didn't say anything in the note. I mean, I guess they wouldn't expect us to have the idea to go anywhere.
Something is wrong.
Nothing is wrong.
What are they hiding?
Whatever it is, they think we can't handle it.
The last time they were gone so long, I thought they'd never come back.
Time is relative.
That's easy for you to say. You don't have to keep track of time. Timing is a very adult thing.
You're not an adult.
Not yet.
Don't pretend you're so much older than I am.
I'll always be older.
By 16 months, that's not enough to make a real difference. And you don't make it any easier acting childish all the time.
You're fighting.
You're fighting.
You should measure.
It's not science. I like to think of it as a means of expression, almost an art form.
Hannah opened the window.
Do you smell that?
Sulfur?
Freedom. Sure, running away is cliche, but then they would have to notice us. They would notice if we weren't here when they got back.
Possibly. You don't really want to run away.
We always lock the door, but forget the windows. We can crawl out and then.
Nobody ever taught us to open doors.
But we could if we really wanted to.
No. It's symbolic. The magic of childhood. We just never learned.
That's a silly conceit.
Hannah tried to open the door. She was not able to.
It's just a mechanism. We should be able to figure it out. We just never really had the
Time.
awareness. Why would we run away?
I mean, no good reason. Adventure, so that they miss us. They miss us as much as we miss them. They are supposed to care about us. That is just how it is supposed to be. But they seem like they can't even take care of themselves anymore.
I don't mind cooking,
Your cooking sucks.
but I don't mind it.
Like most young girls, Hannah kept a journal.
Stop writing about me.
You don't know.
I always know when you're writing about me in your journal because you get this weird smirk on your face.
I don't smirk.
A fly landed on Hannah's journal. She immediately swatted and killed it on the first try.
Got it. Gross.
You didn't have to kill it.
It was just a fly. Everybody kills flies.
But isn't that like the first step in a larger chain of dominance?
I have so much power over the fly.
You killed it because you could. And we eat meat. Could you kill a chicken?
Chicken is delicious.
I don't think you could.
I could if I had to.
Why would you have to kill a chicken?
It was just a fly.
Hannah loved writing in her journal. Hannah wrote in silence while Greta played with the chemistry set. Greta took out a box of matches. She struck one, lit the burner, and then the chemistry set started to explode.
Pay attention to what you were doing.
Damn it, it's staining the carpet.
Can we clean it up?
Get some water. Shit.
Hannah rushed to get a bucket of water. She tossed it onto the explosion, and the room started to fill with oversized bubbles.
They'll be mad when they get back.
Dad gave me the chemicals to play around with.
He didn't tell you not to follow the instructions.
I couldn't understand them. They didn't make any sense.
How did you do this?
I don't know. Let's go.
What? We have to clean up.
Nope. There's no way to contain this.
So we just leave?
Maybe they'll clean it up before we get back. You want to go somewhere? Let's go. But first, sandwiches.
What?
A picnic.
Greta found a duffel bag, and they started to fill it with whatever they could find. A loaf of bread, apples, a jar of peanut butter, pickles, marshmallows, chips.
Soda?
On the top shelf.
While Greta packed whatever she felt would be useful, magazines, markers, an empty notebook, pillows, underwear, Hannah had to pull a chair over to reach the top shelf. She stood on her tippy toes to reach the soda. Once the duffel bag was full, then they put on their capes.
A note.
There's no time.
Wait.
What now?
Just hold on for a second and look at it.
It's a mess.
But it's a pretty mess.
Just because it's pretty doesn't make it any less messy.
The duffel bag was so heavy it took both of them to carry it. As Hannah grabbed her journal and Greta snatched the box of matches, almost after having left them behind, the room became so full of bubbles that there was no room left. Because they did not know how to open the door, they crawled out through the window, throwing the duffel bag out first.
It starts off being about priorities. You must keep everything contained. When you are told, here are your options, and those options reduced from small, minute, infinitesimal. Oh, and hope? Hope is a fucking disaster. It's like this thing is killing you from the inside. And then there's a bunch of crap about religion, cards from people you barely know, baked goods, meal kits, and a whole bunch of casseroles nobody will eat appear from nowhere. I hate hope because hope lets people see what they want to see rather than what is actually happening. Hope is for children, for idiots. What I feel now mostly is very little at all. I won't say nothing. Not yet. I'm not ready. I just try to keep busy, not think about tomorrow. Ask myself, what can I do today? I can make applesauce. I can sweep the kitchen floor. I can hug my daughters if I remember to. Somewhere along the way, I lose my ability to speak. Well, not with you. You are different. There's a magic about this whole thing that I don't quite understand. Explain it to me if you can. Nope. I guess an explanation would ruin the magic, right? I can't play games anymore. My daughters get bored playing memory with me when I can't remember anything. I can't remember what card came before, and I'm frustrated, and they're frustrated, even more frustrated because they don't want to show how frustrated they are. I'm in the grocery store, and I forget why I am there. I can no longer drive. I feel like a helpless child when I can't physically open the car door anymore. Someone else has to open doors for me. Fucking chivalry. And the hospital and the doctors and the physical therapy grow so much that we neglect our daughters. They have to grow up way too soon. But maybe that's good. They won't feel alone because they'll have each other, even when they hate each other. The older one, she's so fragile, and the younger one jumps into everything way too quickly. See, I can't remember their names now. I can't remember my own name. But maybe that doesn't matter to you. But I can remember how I used to tell them bedtime stories. Right now, that is what I can remember. Them cuddled up in my lap as we read. Bedtime stories. Do you have a favorite one? Oh, I bet I can guess which ones you like. A good bedtime story promises good dreams, a bad one. Well, we won't talk about nightmares here. That moment when you are in bed before you drift off, what do you feel? I fall asleep every night to the TV. It's supposed to be very bad for you to have light and sound interrupt your REM cycle, but I've grown so accustomed to it, I doubt I'll ever be able to sleep without the television. My husband hates it. Well, he doesn't hate it. He just doesn't like that I always get to pick what we watch because it's the only way I'll fall asleep. And then when I'm asleep, he turns on something different, plays games on his phone, and then turns it off when he wants to fall asleep. At some point, the bedtime stories stopped, and I started watching TV instead. They no longer need bedtime stories. I used to kill at lullabies when bedtime was a really big thing. Now they barely say goodnight. Maybe they're afraid of saying goodnight because goodnight might mean goodbye. As you start growing up and start reading the real Brothers Grimm, you see the darkness. Fairy tales were meant to frighten children into not leaving home. And now, with unsafe streets and helicopter parents, there is even more reason to trick your child into not running away. What would it take for a child to hate their parents so much that they left? Do they hate me for leaving? Do they even know that I'm already gone?
Hannah and Greta stood next to each other, the strap of the duffel bag holding them together like a set of salt and pepper shakers. It was very heavy. They could only move it if they worked together. And that did not look like it was going to happen.
What next?
We can't go back in there.
You think we should run away?
No. Even better. We make them think we ran away.
That's terrible.
They're adults. They can deal with it.
You're not very nice.
Running away was your idea.
No, it wasn't.
You brought it up first.
Yeah, but I didn't really mean it. Why would we run away?
Because they left?
What if they think we were kidnapped?
Even better.
I'm no good at plotting.
I don't mind making decisions.
I make decisions sometimes.
When they don't matter. How long do you think they've been gone?
Not long. Not long enough.
We can go to town.
We might run into them.
What about the road? We could find somewhere else.
I'm not brave.
Running away is the only logical thing to do.
You won't miss home?
Home is all we've ever known. Don't you want to figure out if we've been missing out on something?
No, I'm happy at home.
If you were happy, we wouldn't be here.
Okay, we can't go back inside. We shouldn't go into town, and the road is too scary. I'm sorry, but I'm not afraid to admit it. I don't want to go anywhere. Don't read my magazine.
I can read whatever I want.
Hannah reached out to take back her magazine, but Greta wouldn't let it go. They ripped it in half. Almost at the same time, they started shredding the magazine into a million pieces, laughing and throwing the pieces at each other. Even when they fought, it was still fun. Greta got an idea.
Forest.
What about it?
We could go into the forest.
What would we do in the forest?
Something exciting could happen.
Get lost.
It can't be that big. Maybe getting lost is a good idea.
I don't want to be lost.
When you get lost, you eventually get found. And maybe things suck when you're lost and the person holding the map gets frustrated and everybody starts yelling. But then suddenly you figure out where you are and it's great. Don't be afraid of getting lost. It'll be fun. I'll make sure it's fun.
Your plan is to get lost?
You can't plan to get lost, silly. Our plan is to run away so that they'll feel bad, and then they'll have to search for us. And when they find us, they'll forgive us for ruining the house.
That doesn't make any sense.
Do you have a better plan?
Greta attempted to pull the duffel bag into the forest. She struggled a lot. It was very clear that Greta would not be able to do it on her own.
Stop! Just stop.
Fine. We won't run away. We'll go a little into the forest and they'll think we've run away. We could have a nice picnic and watch the house for when they come back.
What if they don't look for us? What if they forget about us?
They aren't here. We have to figure things out for ourselves. And standing in front of the house waiting for them to return and lecture us on how we ruined the carpet feels wrong.
I just want to make sure we're not being reckless. What if something happens?
Good. Why are you being so stubborn?
I just hate that you always get your way.
My way? You're a part of this too. Think about it this way. Look, there's a path right in front of us.
I want to wait for them to come back.
What if they don't?
They always do.
But it felt different this time when they didn't say goodbye. Didn't it feel different?
But I suppose a picnic in the forest is not objectionable.
And then they'll come home and we'll rush back into their arms and everything will be perfect. Just focus on how amazing that will feel. Because we had an adventure and they had a second to feel like what it would be like if we weren't always here.
Do you ever feel like a burden?
You're not a burden to me.
No, not for us. A burden to them.
We don't need them. We've got food, our capes to protect us, and each other.
I'm not going to get lost in the forest with you.
What else do you have planned?
There could be wolves.
There's only wolves in bedtime stories. This is real life. It's not like we're going to stumble on a wolf or an ogre or some evil magician or something.
We've never been outside the house on our own.
It'll be fun.
It'll be fun until we really get lost.
They looked at the house, they looked at the forest, and it started to rain jelly beans.
We'll just go.
Hannah reluctantly went over to Greta, and the two of them picked up the duffel bag together and started walking into the forest.
Just go in a little ways and eat our lunch.
Nothing wrong with a little lunch.
We'll keep the house in sight.
What are you afraid of?
Just those stories, you know, the fairy tale ones from bedtime. Remember those stories that always warn that children should not leave home?
But we're not pigs or princesses. We're not asleep or have ridiculously long hair or lost our slippers or live in a house with a bunch of weird little men. There's no fairy godmother and no evil stepmother.
Not yet.
You're jumping ahead.
I don't like this.
The house will be here when we get back.
There's this golden moment of childhood. It could be called innocence, but really it's just like the leaves on a tree or plants in a vegetable garden. Sprout, blossom, wither, die. Sometimes things don't smell rotten until you get very close to them, until they are right up to your face. Maybe they'll be fine without me. Maybe it'll be easier for me not to see them grow jaded. Maybe the purpose of all relationships is that they end. I think about me and my brother. We don't talk much anymore, but when we were children, we were really close. My brother and I used to put on plays. I don't know if everyone did that, but we did. And it wasn't that I was jealous of my brother. Things just came very easily to him. He'd stumble into a job. He'd never invest too much into a relationship. It was like he was unaffected by life. But it was in these plays that he could really be himself, you know? Maybe that's another thing. And I don't want to get all pseudo-psychological, but now that I'm going through this, I have a lot of questions about the concept of self because I don't feel like me anymore. So what was that self that I was? And is there a new self that I'm becoming? And maybe neither of those is really my true self. What if there really is no authenticity? What if we can learn so much more by being fake? What, by seeing the necessity of fakeness is part of how we get through our lives. I mean, that's what this whole fantasy is about. Me pretending to show you something fake so that you'll believe I'm real. I'm not explaining this well. I'm not making sense anymore. As it gets harder to communicate, and I mean harder in the sense of not being able to form words so much anymore, I'm not upset that I can't talk. I could deal with that alone. What I can't handle is the emotions of the closest people in my life that happen when they realize I am losing my speech, my mind, my life. And I couldn't isolate myself. Not entirely, not from my daughters. So instead, I can only wait for them to see which path I was really on. There are so many narratives about death. Only a dying person sees just how much death floods our lives. Why is my story different than anyone else's? Because the story is wrong. It's always wrong. It's never like that. It's never sad. It's never idyllic. It's never right. And the harder I might try to tell this story clearly, the more I will fuck it up. All I could do was make it okay for everybody else to move on with their lives. I wrote them letters before I could no longer write. As my hands lost the ability to hold the pen, I wrote my daughters letters because I wouldn't be there when they graduated from high school, got married, had their own children. I don't know what happened to them. Do you know? Do you know this story? Do you know what is going to happen? There's no recipe for how to leave your children. I want to go kicking and screaming. I want to make everyone uncomfortable, but no one can know. Shh. I cannot draw attention to myself. I'm in the kitchen. I do not remember that it is the kitchen. I am making zucchini fries. The girls like them. But they're baked, so that's good. Vegetables without a lot of grease, but breading and salt and garlic powder, a little egg wash. We as a family do not do well with leftovers. They sit in the fridge until I remember to throw them out. Nobody else ever throws them out. What is going to happen when no one remembers to throw out the leftover food until it just piles up until what? They buy a new house? Moving on is much easier than cleaning up. But I can't stay, right? So I can't be upset when they decide to move on too. I won't be upset for you. I'm in the kitchen and I start cutting the zucchini. and I forget how to do it. I can't explain it. It's like there's this switch in my brain and it just gets flicked off, and I forget how to do the most basic of basic things. Soon I can no longer cook. I cannot be trusted with knives. I burn myself really bad when I try to can tomato sauce. And I hate that I don't know how to do things anymore. And so I stopped trying. No one relies on me for anything anymore. I try not to be too objectionable. And you would think that I would sleep all day, but I am so tired, I can't really sleep. And the time just fills up. Time is eternity. And I don't think I am ready for what will happen when I have no longer care, but have all the time in the world. The world has no time. I promise not to take too much longer. You know, it's funny. Everything changes when you admit you're going to die.
They sat in the forest and had their picnic. As Hannah finished her sandwich, she noticed that Greta was already occupied with a different task.
You didn't eat enough.
Leave me alone.
You mind?
Knock yourself out.
Lunch is important. It's the most important meal. Well, maybe some meals shouldn't be more important than other meals. It seems like something mothers say to make their kids eat like whatever's in front of them. But there must be a hierarchy among meals. I mean, how would we judge what was good or what was not and adjust the next time?
I'm not hungry.
But we made peanut butter, marshmallow, and pickle sandwiches.
And they are magical.
You forget to eat.
I get busy. Eating's for normal people. I have things to do.
Now that it is far away, the house looks sad.
It's boring.
No, not like that. Not sad as in like pathetic. Sad, like super depressing. Like it used to be happy once, but now it has nothing to be happy about. The paint and even the windows. Have we always been depressed?
You don't know what depression is.
Maybe not, but I've heard the word used before. Even if I don't know what it is, I can still get it. I wonder if it's that feeling when you are in the bathtub and you just don't want to leave.
I think that's just about how getting clean is nice.
Or what if it's the feeling when you feel all alone, even when you're surrounded by people?
I know you want to grow up and be done with it, but sometimes it could be just as nice not to know things.
Did you finish the soda?
Did you want some?
What are you doing?
Making crumbs.
Like for cooking?
No, stupid. They're not really crumbs.
They are just pieces of paper.
I can make paper flowers if I want to.
Why?
I'm trying to remember.
I don't get it.
There's a story, children go into the forest, they drop crumbs so that they can find their way back. But then the birds or the rabbits or the elephants start to eat the crumbs and they get lost anyway. Well, these will be our crumbs.
At least they'll be safe from elephants.
With crumbs, we can go and be able to find our way back.
Greta knew that this was going to be a problem. Hannah did not understand why Greta was so excited to get lost. They fought like only sisters do.
I can't believe I trusted you.
I'm just trying to be prepared.
You said we could keep the house in sight.
I did.
And now you're planning. Oh, I'm sick of your plans. No, I'm sick of you always getting to make the plans.
You're fighting.
You're fighting.
Do you have a plan?
No.
I just want to see what happens.
And you think the crumbs will work?
These will be much better than crumbs.
What are you writing?
Words. Each flower has a word. Each word has a meaning. Well, multiple meanings really, but you get the idea.
What kinds of words?
Sister.
So what's your plan?
You won't get upset.
If I'm gonna be upset, you telling me what you want to do makes little difference.
Yes, but I'm drunk with the excitement of leaving, so please keep that in mind. We'll leave this trail of crumbs, like in the story, but this way we can go farther without you getting upset about us potentially getting lost. I would have just wandered off. No note, off into the unknown. The crumbs are for you. Maybe they'll even find us by using them.
How?
They could recognize my handwriting. Dummy.
I don't want to make any.
You don't have to. I got a lot here. Several. And if we run out, we could always make more.
What if you run out of paper?
Find more paper. Metronome.
You can't even remember the story.
Doesn't matter if I remember the whole thing or not. That doesn't mean it won't happen the same way each time. It's not like we have control over what happens.
It's okay to be afraid.
Fearless.
I'm not going.
Do you remember when Pepper died?
Who?
Our hamster?
That rat thing you were obsessed with?
They would only let us keep him if we promised he would stay in a shoebox.
Pepper was your rat. I had nothing to do with it.
He wasn't a rat.
What does this have to do with your plan?
Right. Well, it was a choice. Pepper could either have a family and live in a box, or he could be alone and be free.
But you were the one who put Pepper in that box.
Pepper died in that box. I can't force you to go. It won't work. It won't be fun unless you decide for yourself. You have to journey for yourself. Do you want to live in a box? Or should we?
They're not back yet.
I don't think they are coming back.
One condition.
This isn't a negotiation. You're either in or you're out.
If we go, I want to do it totally. I don't want to wander around the woods with no purpose and then we give up.
Even if we run out of crumbs?
Especially if we run out of crumbs.
We can't take everything.
Let's take nothing.
And so Hannah and Greta emptied the duffel bag, leaving its contents for the furry inhabitants of the forest. The last item, a Ziploc bag with 2 cookies in it.
A toast.
To what?
To crumbs.
So, how do we do it?
Well, the crumbs should leave a trail so that we'll be able to spot the next one right as we approach the new one.
But that means we'll always be focused on the next step and never really processing them now.
After an indeterminate moment of indecision, Hannah and Greta began the laborious task of loading up the crumbs into the empty duffel bag. Once the bag was loaded, Hannah placed her journal carefully in the middle of the crumbs.
Don't worry, I won't make you sacrifice your journal.
I just want to make sure it doesn't slip out by accident.
Goodbye, shoebox!
I mean, there's just so many parallels. But if I'm honest, I don't remember that much about my childhood. I hear people talk like they can remember specifics, lots and lots. For me, it's blurrier. And that's no excuse for my extreme emotions or the distance I naturally put between myself and everyone else. I don't try to be intentionally cold or anything. But I think it's just easier if we all admit that distance is good. Setting boundaries is good. Children don't have boundaries. They have to be taught that they are not the center of the universe. I didn't get the chance to teach them about boundaries. I only have a couple of clear memories from childhood. One is laughing, laughing so hard, I feel like I might throw up. And there was this couch, and me and my brother used to play this game. Well, it wasn't really a game. It was just this thing we did where we would watch old Disney sing-alongs, like Follow the Bouncing Ball videos, back when videos were on VHS. And we would take all the cushions off the couch, and one of us would lie down and hold our feet up, and the other person would sit on the other's feet with their feet touching the edge of the couch and just bounce them along to the video. It sounds stupid now, but it was fun. Fun enough that I remember doing it multiple times. It's ridiculous. I don't laugh like that anymore. I'm not explaining this well. I'm in a field covered with snow. And I have one of those snowsuits on, the bulky kind that makes it hard to move. And I'm so bundled up, hat, scarf, gloves, mittens on top of gloves. And then I fall over and I can't get up. So I'm just lying there, warm because of all the padding, but I can feel the snow all around me. And I'm on my back like a turtle looking up at the grayest sky. And my own inability to do anything. At what point does it switch from I can be active, I can make decisions, I can do things? If someone says they are in control of their own destiny, they are not standing back far enough to see the actual pattern. That was when I first had to let go of things. And every day, as life slips more and more through my fingers in their gloves covered in mittens, so I can't even stand up anymore. I knew about death from a very early age. My grandma died, and everybody was sad, but I had only met her a handful of times. I mean, you're supposed to get overcome when someone that personal passes over, but I was 7-ish, and she had a dozen or so grandkids, so it wasn't like I was anything special. I was just the youngest, which I shouldn't have understood, but I got it. I couldn't tell you anything else about her except she died. But the first death where I was really struck that affected me in that deep, hurting way was my dog. If I can trust my memory, they happened one on top of the other. I felt Jeffrey's passing much more personally than my grandma. And I think what hit me the most was that a bunch of people came to my grandma's funeral. It was clear she would be missed. But Jeffrey, we just dug a hole. And to my parents, it was a chore. And my brother rolled his eyes and the whole time. And I was the only person who would miss Jeffrey. For the longest time, I could forget that my grandma was gone, but I could never have another pet after Jeffrey. If the next one got sick or run over, I tried not to be responsible for anyone other than myself. But then marriage and children and the interdependency was unavoidable. I could still love them and hate how attached they became. Maybe that's where the distance comes from. In case something happened. Like this. These moments from childhood affect the future. My daughter's memories shape who they can and will become. And as I lose the words to encourage them, at the same time, they need to find their own words. And whether I'll be like Grandma or Jeffrey to them, as much as they might try to distance themselves from the world, from me, from each other, there will always be a trail leading them back home.
Hannah and Greta ran out of crumbs. Just as Greta dropped the last crumb, Hannah saw a clearing and a house.
I'm starving.
Act casual.
How long have we been lost?
Hours, maybe days?
It's just suspicious. We leave the crumbs, and when we run out, we sit down to make more. And then we leave more crumbs, and it becomes endless until we run out of pages, except for your stupid journal, which you refuse to sacrifice to the cause. And just as we're dropping the last crumb, that last promise that we turn around and go back to follow the path back home, there's this clearing, this bakery. Who builds a bakery in the middle of the forest?
Here's the plan. We don't have any money. I'll distract whoever it is and you stuff your pockets with bread.
Cookies.
Bread.
If I'm going to steal, I'm going to steal something delicious, not boring bread. Besides, didn't we just eat?
That could have been days ago.
As they entered the bakery, they saw a very big oven standing ominously in one corner, big enough to fit a person, if not several people. A witch entered into the room with a mixing bowl and a spoon. But Hannah and Greta did not immediately recognize her to be a witch, because she appeared to be a perfectly ordinary baker.
What if we get caught?
Someone's coming. Don't forget the plan.
Caught doing what?
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know anybody was here. We
Yes.
got lost in the forest.
You have such a lovely shop.
Lovely. It's decrepit, just like me. I don't know how I keep at it. Should have closed down years ago. Nobody comes by. But I can't stop myself from baking. It's an obsession.
Well, everything smells lovely.
What are you making now?
Bread.
Ew.
Oh, this one's very tasty. Just a hint of flavor. Sweet enough to be slathered with a little butter and it's ready to go.
Well, could you show me those pastries over there?
You got eyes, don't you?
How do you make it?
Oh, I'm almost done with this one, but you could help me make the next batch. If you want to stay. Oh, I'm sure you want to rest a bit. It's a forest out there.
As Greta talked to the witch, Hannah took the opportunity to wander around the shop. In the farthest corner from the witch, Hannah started stuffing cookies into the oversized pockets of her cape.
I don't like bread, but I'd like to still learn how to make it. Nobody ever shows me how to do anything. It'd be nice to learn how to do something. Something straightforward. Bread must be easy to make. A piece of cake.
Some breads are easy, some are difficult, just like people.
I bet you know how to make some difficult things too. Like soufflés. Aren't they supposed to be the worst?
You are not doing a very good job of distracting me.
What do you mean?
Yeah, what do you mean?
Well, let's just say I was a little girl and I had no food and no money, and I was lost for what? Days? In the forest. and I stumble upon this bakery. And there was all this food that was going to waste. Well, wouldn't I try to distract the baker and steal some of it? I mean, they wouldn't miss it. The baker already said nobody comes here. And it's remote enough, I bet. It would take hours before the police came, even if somebody had been shot. What could be the harm? It's only a few cookies.
The witch dropped the bowl on the table and fled mysteriously into another room. Greta took a moment to taste the batter. It was not good. Hannah rushed to place the cookies back, and just as she finished, the witch returned with an enormous bread pan.
I guess nobody taught you that stealing was wrong. Perhaps even worse than murder, depending on who you are planning to steal from. But there's another path. Rather than stealing, I could always ask the baker. Maybe she would understand. I mean, it's not like you tried deliberately to get lost. How your parents must be feeling. I wish I had a telephone.
We are very hungry.
And I could help you cook as payment.
Me teaching you to cook seems like a poor form of payment.
Well, what do you want?
I don't remember the last time someone asked me that. Okay, so you'll stay and help me make dinner, and then tonight you will keep me company. And once you've slept, you can make your decisions about what to do next. Sometimes it's nice not to do anything for a bit. Let the rest of the world catch up to you. I know what it means to make your own place. The distance that naturally happens between you and the rest of the world. Maybe I can convince you to stay.
The witch opened the door to the oven, which was a process. She placed the pan carefully on the top rack of the oven and set a timer. And then she closed the oven door.
That's very nice of you.
But what do you get out of it?
Someone to talk to, maybe some proteges, but also someone to eat my creations. Baking is my passion. Hasn't anybody ever told you that sharing a loaf of bread with friends makes it taste better?
I've never had a friend.
We're sisters.
I won't pressure you. There's just so much food that goes to waste. We are stocked to the brim with leftovers.
How do you make a profit?
Didn't anybody ever teach you that there's more important things than money?
We won't be able to stay long.
Who knows? After one night, you might not want to leave.
What do you think?
She said there's food, and there's probably comfy beds by the looks of this place. Since our other option is sleeping outside on the ground with no food, and she's going to let me help her cook, there's no downside.
Looks like.
I was going to make quiche for dinner.
We've never had quiche. It's only for one night.
We accept.
I haven't had company in ages.
I'm not sure how good we'll be.
Take off your cloaks.
Hannah and Greta looked at each other. They took off their cloaks and hung them near the door. It felt good to have a home again, even if only for one night.
Oh, the fire is dying. Can you go to the back room and bring some wood?
So, what's next?
Oh, the recipe. You add the eggs. Have you ever cracked an egg before?
Greta smashed an egg on the table.
Sorry.
Don't worry. I just shove all the mess onto the floor.
We don't know how to do anything.
Never mind. I will teach you what I can.
Hannah puts the logs in front of the oven.
No! Don't leave them there.
Do you live here alone?
Not anymore.
What's that?
Can you get it?
Greta went to the oven door. She did not know how to open it. Unseen by Hannah and Greta, the witch cast a spell, and suddenly Greta knew how to open the door.
Your oven is very big.
How much do you need to bake at one time?
It was on sale. Hannah, form these into balls. Greta, never leave logs in front of the oven. Someone might trip over them.
How did you know our names?
I'm Greta. She's Hannah.
They call me Ginger. Hannah, close the oven door or you'll burn the house down.
We promise not to burn down your house.
As Greta formed the balls of dough and Hannah placed the logs carefully into the bottom of the oven, Ginger pulled out the loaf of bread from the oven, dumped the loaf from the pan, and went off to soak it. After Hannah closed the door to the oven, the two sisters stared at the loaf of bread, which suddenly began to glow.
We should ask first.
We're guests.
Something is wrong.
We're starving. She could always make more. This place is stocked full of ingredients.
What a stupid name. Ginger.
Bread?
There's a clear difference between cooking and baking. Cooking is an art. You throw some shit in a pan, you season it as it cooks. And sure, you check the temperature of the meat, you taste the vegetables, you add more water if the rice is under, but baking is an art. It is exact. You need to measure. I didn't teach them to measure. And for me, it's never been about the eating. It has always been about the smell. Nothing hides the smell of disinfectant like a loaf of bread. It is too easy to mess up the proportions. You have to determine what to add before you put it in the oven. Children are loaves of bread. I mean, so much has already happened. I won't get to passively watch my children rise and fall like so many other mothers. I get to imagine what their whole lives will be like before they happen. Not amazing. They don't cure cancer or anything, but they have jobs and families of their own. So if now is the defining moment of their lives, if the moment my daughters enter the oven, I can no longer help what they will become. This moment prepares them to be more loving, more mature, more flexible as life deals them the unexpected twists. All children kill their parents. Sometimes it is a literal murder, but I'll skip over the well-worn examples. This isn't a Greek tragedy. But even when the killing is not literal, at some point, children must reconcile themselves to burying the idea of their parents they thought they had in their heads. Everybody kills their parents because if they didn't, their parents would strangle them. Like how some animals eat their babies. I killed my parents too. They still come for holidays, but they aren't part of my children's lives. I don't even really know if they would want to be. There's this unanswered question about what will happen if I'm not there to coordinate, to schedule, to bring everybody together. Maybe it's just better if they all could just admit that not everyone has to be together for every holiday. Here's another way to think about it. How many people kill someone? Not as an accident, not in the heat of the moment, but like they knew what they were doing, planned it, and then followed through. It is possible to think about killing someone constantly. A coworker who won't shut up, an unfaithful lover, even a political leader who continually frustrates with choices so far outside of acceptable behavior. Everybody thinks about killing someone at some point. That's part of being human. But if this story is really for you, this action is not a reality that happened. You wanted me to tell you a story, and this is part of it. It is either the parent or the child who dies. It cannot be both, because someone has to stay behind to mourn. And this isn't about me being some sort of martyr either. I didn't sacrifice myself for them. And this story is much bigger than that. They had to kill me because if they didn't, I would have killed them. And the logic is fuzzy for sure, but the pattern is persistent, pervasive. All parents die, and getting angry at my children because they have to forget me is the best way to encourage them to run even farther away. People can love someone and murder them. It is very possible to care about somebody and still know it is time to hit the road. I did it to my parents, not because of some intense trauma, not because they did anything that harmed me. It was time. Time for me to rely on myself rather than someone else. Because that's all we have. As much as people love their families, whether blood or invented, everybody dies alone. I suppose you know that already.
Greta sat at a table, attempting, not very successfully, to make a puzzle. She was in that stage where you start separating the pieces into different piles. Hannah paced.
How long have we been here?
No,
I'm starting to lose it.
not surprising.
Don't joke. I'm starting to lose the memory. The old house, our family. Pretty soon I won't remember anything.
But we're learning a lot.
Only recipes.
That's more than we used to know.
I'm not talking about making pancakes. How could knowing how to make pancakes protect us?
Protect us from what? Did you check the fire? We're not supposed to let it go out.
Oh. It's dying.
Hannah went to get some firewood. The logs were very heavy, almost too big to carry. Right before she threw them on the fire, she stopped and placed the log carefully right in front of the open oven door.
What?
I got that feeling. The hair on my neck, the whisper in my ear, the turn of my stomach.
You shouldn't leave that log there. Someone could trip over it.
You sound like Ginger. No self-aware person is going to trip over a log that big. You have to be completely oblivious to everything going on around you.
Fine. Leave it there. Ginger will be mad when she gets back, and I'm just trying to save you from having to deal with another one of her lectures. Close the oven door. Do you want to burn the place down?
Hannah intentionally left the oven door open with the logs in front of it.
Do you think you're gaining weight?
That is not a polite thing to ask.
I feel like I've gained 10 pounds, maybe more. Maybe we should start exercising?
You can start exercising. I'll watch.
How did I gain so much weight so quickly?
You're overreacting.
Everything Ginger teaches us how to make has way too much sugar in it.
Sugar's tasty.
Yeah, but what about vegetables, whole grains, protein?
Balanced diet is overrated.
You don't suspect anything?
What? Nobody could just be a nice person to teach us things, to feed us, to care about us in a way that we've never been cared for, to say goodnight?
I'm not used to being cared for.
It can't have been more than a week.
It doesn't feel like more than a week, but
I didn't know you still had your journal.
I don't want her to know about it.
So secretive.
Look,
Freaky.
I've been secretly keeping the track of the days because it seems like Like, time doesn't matter in this house. At first I thought it was weird, but now there's so many passed without us sensing it.
Maybe you miscounted.
Why don't we want to leave?
Ginger said she was going to teach us how to make donuts.
You can't solve everything with food.
Ginger can.
We should want to leave, to go home, to go somewhere. We haven't left Ginger's house in all this time.
I don't see a problem.
But that's a problem. It's a problem that we don't see a problem.
If you want to go, then go.
I can't leave without you.
You could. Maybe it'd be better. I would stay. You can go wherever it is you're going.
Can't keep track of time. We don't want to leave.
We are safe. For once in my life, I feel safe.
I don't like this. I don't trust the safety.
Nothing is wrong.
Ginger with this whole cookie cutter bakery routine with our parents. I'm starting to lose the reason of why we came here.
I don't see a problem.
If you'd stop looking at the pieces, you'd be able to see the bigger picture.
Okay. What are you proposing? We go somewhere else because we don't want to go somewhere else? We asked Ginger if we could all go on a diet? We give up this one good chance for a new life because you can't keep track of what day it is?
You're fighting.
You're fighting.
I'm trying to remember the story, but I can't. I can't remember what happens next. I can't remember how it ends.
Have a cookie. It'll calm you down.
Ugh, drugs. What if Ginger has been drugging us this whole time?
We eat the same things. She would have to drug herself too.
So she could have built up a tolerance. I mean, you know she is kind of kooky.
Kookie's fun. I'd rather be kooky than be bored back at home with you staring out a window.
Stop doing that puzzle and talk to me.
Drugs are only bad because society says they're bad. It's all propaganda to keep kids from having fun. When I turn 18, I'm going to try everything.
Stop doing the puzzle.
When Greta didn't or couldn't stop, Hannah lunged at her. The puzzle pieces went everywhere.
You are on drugs.
I'm sorry. I don't know why I did that. You wouldn't stop doing the puzzle and you won't acknowledge anything. And I don't know what to do.
Fine. Let's try to leave.
They tried to leave, but nothing happened.
See?
Okay. All right. Don't freak out. We'll just ask Ginger when she comes back.
No, we can't let her know that we know. If she thinks we figured out that stuff is not right here, she can adjust. We need a plan. First, we don't eat anything else. Second,
They heard the familiar sounds of a key in the lock on the front door.
shh, follow my lead.
Hello, dearies.
What the fuck, Ginger?
You're hopeless.
What happened to the puzzle, Greta? You seemed very invested in it.
We figured you out. You can't keep us prisoner.
What Greta means is that we have outstayed our welcome. We so appreciate the cooking lessons and the comfy beds and the company. Believe me, we will miss them on the road home.
Ah, you think you want to go home. Well, guess what? Your home no longer exists. All time is now. There is nowhere else. I'll just have to try to convince you to stay.
Ginger waved her arm. Greta rushed to the door.
Hannah, the door.
Can you turn the knob?
It's not working. I don't know how. I can't remember.
It's too late. Neither of you are going anywhere.
I'm starting to remember.
What?
There's something about cannibalism.
What?
I suppose it is time for us to renegotiate our stay. See, I won't let you leave, and now you owe me a bill of $1,000 for food and the beds and the cooking lessons. Nothing is free. I mean, if you were guests, and grateful guests at that, what's money amongst friends? But if you want to run away as soon as things start getting real, I have told you 1,000 times not to leave the oven door open.
And it was one of those moments where everything changes. It all happened in slow motion. As Ginger tripped over the log, her coffee cup sailed through the air, covering the whole room and the two sisters with lukewarm coffee. Hannah either reached out to unsuccessfully help Ginger recover her balance or pushed her into the oven.
Well, that's convenient.
Hannah tried and could not open the oven door.
It's locked or jammed or something. Greta, help me.
Absolutely not.
She'll die without our help.
Whatever. She was the obstacle. Now we're free.
Greta!
Okay, fine. How does it open?
I forgot.
They tried to open the door. The screaming stopped.
Problem solved?
We should call the police.
There's no phone.
We didn't have to kill her.
We didn't kill her. It was an accident.
But you wanted her to die.
That's not how we tell the story. We say she tried to eat us.
We don't know if she was going to eat us.
We don't have $1,000.
We'll get arrested.
Not if there's not any evidence.
As Hannah gathered the puzzle pieces into a large pile, Greta got a can of gasoline that Ginger sometimes used to start the oven fire. As Greta threw the gasoline-soaked puzzle pieces around the bakery, Hannah, disgusted with Greta's efficiency, collected their cloaks. Greta struck a match.
Shouldn't we say something?
We'll never learn how to make donuts now.
Greta threw the match on the ground. As the bakery filled with flames, Greta and Hannah put on their cloaks, broke a window, and climbed outside to freedom.
No, I'm not good at this. It's all wrong. I've failed. I can't find the right motivation. The perfect phrasing, it doesn't connect, and nothing I try makes it better. I'm trying to tell too many stories. And the witch didn't really deserve to die. I haven't figured that out yet. I mean, sure, there were some freaky things happening in that bakery, but she can't be bad just because she's a witch. This isn't Salem. Even if she was planning to eat them, and that's some cannibalism shit we don't have time for right now. The clock is ticking, right? But you wanted me to tell you a story. Why? What do you get out of it? Was it enough to buy me some more time? Did you learn anything about being human? Did my ramblings fulfill your sick, voyeuristic fantasies? So I embellished a little, made it up when I didn't know what the next step down the path was. But this, what I told you, is the story worth remembering, even if it is entirely fake. Because what actually happened in reality was super fucking boring and depressing and frankly, not worth watching, not worth the 90-minute investment. We become our stories. What really happened? I sat in this chair and waited until you were ready to take me. And the story is so important. It's all that's left. It's all that remains, the trace of what happened. But it's also completely flawed. And I know that you are not real. Sitting there in the dark, listening to me stumble my way through a story I don't know how to tell. Why is this the ending? This story can't be for my girls. They won't know. I didn't write it down. This was for me, wasn't it? I'm back in the doctor's office with those two impossible paths in front of me. If the destination is the same, does the path matter? Even though it might seem like it, there aren't two paths. It's the same thing. And the more I attempt to put the pieces of the puzzle together, the farther apart they stretch. The pieces keep moving. Nobody controls it. Not even you. It's always the same story. You would think it would be a precipice, but it always happens this way. Every time. I tell you a story until I'm ready to go. We only have one path. That is what we need to remember. And once I figure that out, fuck you, death. I'm ready.
Hannah and Greta returned home to find out, coincidentally, that their parents' house had also burned to the ground.
Do you think it's all connected?
Sorry, can we take a second?
I'm sorry if our house being burned down wasn't part of your plan.
It can't end like this.
What the hell happened?
Only ashes.
It can't be a coincidence.
Maybe it's karma.
I know we said we'd never talk about Ginger again,
Better to bury it.
but it's like cause and effect. Do you think it's all like that?
Slow down. All what?
What if life at its basis level is merely a series of cause and effect?
Life doesn't happen in a sequence. Burning one house does not logically lead to the burning of another.
But what if it's bigger than this story? What if we never left the house?
But it can't be a dream. We didn't just make it up. We both can't have had the same dream.
I can't remember anymore.
Time changes when you look back at it. Everything seems to be in one moment. Months condensed to what can be processed.
Like, what happens when you don't leave the house for a long time? You start to imagine that things are happening outside, just beyond your reach. What if we just got carried away?
It wasn't just a game.
I can't tell the difference.
Let's take it back. We burn all the evidence, and then we figure out how to get back home. We spend over a week on the road. We have no idea how much time has passed. Our parents could be dead. But what the hell is this supposed to mean?
When did learning something become the point?
Why did we meet a witch rather than a wolf? I mean, there's no point to anything.
She wasn't a witch.
There were witchy things happening in that bakery.
If we had stayed here, maybe we'd be dead too.
Or we could have saved them. Wait, we don't even know if they are dead.
Greta sat down, took off her shoes, and started to begin to paint her toenails.
Shouldn't we do something?
I am doing something.
I mean, like, figure out what happened.
I'm not sure if it matters what happened. Maybe that's the problem. We've been trying to do too much. So I'm going to sit here and paint my toenails and wait for the next thing to happen.
You don't really think they're...
It could be alive.
We've never been homeless before.
People use their houses as an excuse to stay trapped.
So, no more houses?
We'll still have a house, but let's not put too much faith in the four walls protecting us from the bad things.
So, what next?
You said it yourself. There is no next. This is it.
But this is a terrible ending. So we do nothing?
Feels good, doesn't it?
Greta reached hesitantly and took off Hannah's shoes. Once it was clear that Hannah would let her, Greta started painting Hannah's toenails.
I don't know what to feel. Do you feel anything?
I'm sure I'll have some issues at some point. We get therapy later. But right now, it's nice to sit here and share a moment.
If we wait long enough, another story will start.
Or the same story will start over again.
Great. So that's the new plan. We'll wait here until something happens.
What if we stop trying to have plans? Doesn't seem to work so well for us.
But we killed someone.
We didn't kill Ginger. Don't overreact.
But we certainly didn't save her.
We tried at the end. That's what matters.
I don't think we tried.
We definitely did. You're forgetting because it was a traumatic experience.
I don't want to be a murderer.
I mean, do you want to go back? Do you want us to turn ourselves in? It wasn't our fault.
She didn't deserve to die.
He was going to eat us.
We don't know that.
You're fighting.
We shouldn't fight.
It was all my fault.
No.
I tricked you into going.
I'm older. I'm supposed to talk you out of crazy ideas.
Well, you're doing a terrible job of that.
Do you think our parents are waiting for us somewhere?
I'm not sure I want parents again. I mean, you said we don't know how much time has passed. Maybe we're adults now.
Maybe.
I don't feel any older.
Maybe it's that thing in your stomach. Like you can feel your organs moving and it means that you have a better sense of who you are in relation to everything else.
I don't feel anything in my stomach.
Oh, maybe I'm just hungry.
From nowhere, Greta magically pulled out sandwiches.
Peanut butter, marshmallow, and pickle.
They sat and ate their sandwiches, feeling comfortable in the silence. Greta handed Hannah her box of matches.
I can't take these.
I don't want them anymore.
There's only one left.
Hannah took out her journal. She held it dearly for a second. Then she started ripping out the pages. Once the journal was no longer a journal, Hannah struck the last match and started a fire. As they finished their sandwiches, it started to snow.
It was an adventure.
Definitely.
And we got lost
Terrifically.
and had to fight our way out.
Even though we'll never mention it again.
But we won't forget.
I mean, maybe we will. As new things happen and everything gets piled on top of the existing memories, and one day it'll be buried so deep we'll have to dig very, very deep to remember. We could say something trite like, this is the moment that we really became sisters. But really, we'll probably go off and have different lives. And the shared childhood adventure will have less and less priority. And then it'll turn into something like a dream, like a vague notion of that time that we ran away. I don't want to leave yet.
We can stay a little longer.
I don't want to wake up because if we wake up, then we have to figure out what really happened. And somehow it's nicer not to know. To trick ourselves into not thinking about it. To imagine that at any moment, she could open the door and apologize for getting stuck at the bank and then make us zucchini fries.
We can figure out how to make zucchini fries.
And Hannah and Greta pulled up their capes and cuddled next to each other, not knowing what happened to their parents. And the snow fell until the were so big they covered the entire earth.